And sisters, we've all turned up the radio to hear Brother Jimmy Lakey, from coast to coast and shore to shore. Now raise your voice, oh let us all, Jimmy Lakey, get out of bed, Jimmy Lakey, raise your voice, Jimmy Lakey, Lakey, hey, can't live without it with Jimmy Lakey, Jimmy Lakey.
All right, top of the morning to you. That is me, Jaime Lagos, Jimmy Lakey. Pleasured, pleased, and thrilled I am to be here, and I hope you feel the same way. Jeff is already jumping in there. Happy Friday to Delilah, Chad, and Whataburger, and blue shirt wearing Jimmy. I'm your Chief Whataburger, my friends. Glad to have you here on the program. By the way, producer Chad was at Whataburger yesterday. He went down. You know, Whataburger said they're coming to Colorado. I think he's got a photo of it. There he is. There's producer Chad. Got a Rivers Promise hat on, always wearing the brand. That's what we do. He's got the Whataburger announced a couple of years ago they were coming to Colorado and they're going to be here. And I said, oh, hallelujah. Praise the Lord. All my years of suffering in this overpriced state have panned out, and it's good. So here I am. And then they put all the stores that they have in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Nothing against my brethren and sister down in Colorado Springs, but that's greed. That is selfishness that you're not sharing the Whataburger love with me up in the northern area of the state. So anyway, just throw that out there. There's producer Chad eating the Whataburger yesterday. He had the jalapeno and cheese cheeseburger. So that's number 4, I believe, on the menu. So anyway, good for producer Chad. He did have onion rings. I saw in the photo of that, onion rings. I've never had onion rings at Whataburger. I didn't know they served onion rings, to be quite honest. I don't think. Maybe I have, and I don't remember it. I always have the French fries. And, I like a little dip of the spicy ketchup and the regular ketchup. But I didn't know they had onion rings. But we won't judge it. But no, I'm guessing they're probably good onion rings. I'm guessing they are. You ever go to a restaurant, and we got to get to news and lots of things to get to. I go to Whataburger, and I think I've ordered the same thing for 2 decades. I always get that number for the jalapeno cheese Whataburger, the Whataburger with cheese and jalapeno, however you phrase it, and I get the French fries. And if I go there for breakfast, I always get the sausage, egg, and cheese taquitos, which are basically like little breakfast burritos, but they call them taquitos. And sometimes I have ventured out once or twice to get their biscuits and gravy. So that's all I've had. I've got friends who say, did you try this with Whataburger? No, I've never tried anything. I'm sorry. I have nothing. Chad has a future in marketing, says Jeff on the X platform. Chad has a future in marketing and networking with the Snaders. Oh man, Am I speaking English this morning? Did I not have enough coffee? The Snaders. Arloa says, Jerry and I went to the butcher shop in honor of National Cheeseburger Day yesterday. Well, good. See, it was National Cheeseburger Day, and I got so busy, I'm going to regret to inform all of you I did not have a Whataburger. I did not have a Whataburger. Or any burger. I didn't have a burger at all. I think I may have to make up for lost time tomorrow or today sometime. Anyway, all right, good to have you here. It's the Friday edition of the show, September 19th. You want to, I usually can stay pretty focused. Squirrel, shiny objects, I do pretty good most of the time. The ADD does kick in on occasion. But you mentioned Whataburger, and it's a whole tangent. It's like a sermon where you got to preach it, and that's it. So anyway, don't let your heart stumble. Be jealous or covet that producer Chad got to experience the glory of Whataburger yesterday, and I did not. But also, ladies, when you see that photo of producer Chad, I don't want any of you. We can't put it up too often. I don't want it to be there because some of you ladies right now are stumbling in your walk with the Lord, and I regret that we caused you to stumble. Avert thine eyes. Don't look at that stuff. That will. Some of you ladies are fanning yourself right now looking for a cigarette. Stop it. All right. Good to have you. It's Friday, can you tell? It's been a down couple of weeks since the murder or the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And it's very sad what's happened to our country. Yesterday, the Democrats on Capitol Hill doubled down, tried to explain why they call us fascist. One of the squad members, I don't even know her name's worth remembering, said, don't take it personal. We're just talking about the process, you fascist. And, it's like, don't take it personal that I said you're a fat ass. I mean, it's just so stupid. And the American left doubles down. Hillary Clinton tweeting about the removal of Jimmy Kimmel as a sign of fascism. Do any of you really know these leftists going crazy over Jimmy Kimmel? I swear to goodness, if you play their coverage of the assassination of Charlie Kirk, 31-year-old father, 31-year-old husband, young man who had built an organization from the ground up based on kindness and just gentle debate, which you're supposed to have on a campus. They went more apoplectic over Kimmel than they did over Charlie Kirk, honest to God. As a matter of fact, if you look at it, who was the victim of fascism? Was it Charlie Kirk or was it Jimmy Kimmel? Jimmy Kimmel got beat by the market, the free market. Charlie Kirk got beat by fascists who like to silence and shut up their enemies and leftist voters. That's who beat him. So it's really kind of fascinating that they're supposedly these great spotters of fascism, and yet they don't understand or comprehend or not intellectually honest enough to understand that the fascism or the silencing, the squelching, the punishment, the killing of your enemies, your political opponents is from their side, not from our side. But they say that Jimmy Kimmel was taken out by fascists. Well, fascism. Well, that's not really the case. If you know the story, and I don't think the left wants to know the story, but I'll tell you what the real story is behind Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel said some bad things. A very sensitive time in America, perhaps the most impactful event of a political nature like this since the shooting of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. A private citizen out there just trying to make a difference, just trying to have a conversation, and he was shot because of his words. And you can get into the personal life of whether some people, well, Dr. King was this, just shut up. Dr. King was a guy who had a vision for America that would be judged by the content of our character, not the color of our skin. He wanted little black kids and little white kids to be able to play together. I mean, that was his vision, and that was not appropriate for some people, especially in the American South, but in the American culture. They did not like that integration mentality. They didn't enjoy it, and then he was shot dead for his beliefs. And we moved merrily along. He was shot down by whatever forces shoot him down because he was challenging the status quo. Charlie Kirk gets shot down, so we're very sensitive, very raw. One of the most impactful political assassinations, definitely in our lifetime, my lifetime, but perhaps in the history of this nation, a private citizen that just wanted to have ideals in the marketplace and to have a discussion. He gets killed for that. And yet the left, who says they're so good at finding fascism, doesn't call that fascism. They call it Jimmy Kimmel experienced fascism. Let me explain what Jimmy Kimmel experienced. Jimmy Kimmel has lost in the last I think since election, since January and November's inauguration and the election day, he's lost 50% more of his audience. His audience has been cut in half just in the last several months. His also, since he's 10 years in the key demographic, which I think in television they're going to measure that either 18 to 49 or 20, that key demographic of that where they really target the advertisers. I'm now beyond the age where the advertisers are really targeting me. But if the advertising key demographic that he's going for, he's lost 72% of that audience since he started, over the last decade of that show. He's lost 72% of what he was given or granted on opening day when he walked into that time slot. So Jimmy Kimmel is a disaster, and having spent years in media, I know there's two things that get you: ratings and revenue. And it's sometimes difficult in AM radio and talk radio because people are streaming now and it's hard to get a measure. But the bottom line, those are the things that get you. And when his ratings show up as they do, there's going to be a little sensitivity. And that means the national guys are selling this syndication of programming. They're ABC affiliates, and they're coming in, and the national guys have sold national ads based on X number of affiliates, therefore X number of affiliates across America and X number of top 10 cities, top 20 cities, top 50 cities. That means that they're selling that many eyeballs. Well, when you have two major license holders of ABC products that say, we're not listening to this guy anymore, what he has said is inappropriate. And I'm sure it wasn't just that one thing. It was a culmination of the rhetoric of Jimmy Kimmel that the Next Star organization, who has hundreds of stations, some of them are ABC affiliates, and Sinclair both came out and said, we're not going to air this drivel anymore. We're tired of it. We have to serve our community to keep our broadcast license. There are some ABC affiliates that are corporate owned by ABC, but there's a lot of them that are owned by other companies, and they pay for a licensing fee to air that. And two of the big licensees in America for ABC said, no, we're not going to air this stuff anymore. In that slot, we're not going to air it. Well, that's going to screw up. That's going to be refunds. That's going to be problems for these advertisers that were sold X number of eyeballs. And so it becomes a simple mathematics game. Jimmy Kimmel can say he was a victim of censorship or whatever. He was a victim of the free market. Guys who sell local advertising in these local markets that Sinclair and Nexstar own said, we're not going to sell that. That was going to take away the national market. It really just upset the apple cart. It was not fascism. It was the free market that really goes crazy. Now, evidently, Jimmy Kimmel met with the ABC affiliates, or the ABC staff, Bob Iger, which is Disney. They evidently had a meeting, the powwow somewhere, and a source says he's done. He wants out of his ABC contract. He isn't waiting around. He's reportedly trying to break his contract and move on. It appears he wants to appear as a guest on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert before it goes off air. I hate to break the news to you, Kimmel. I mean, I'm not saying Kimmel's done. You will never hear from Kimmel again. But like so many people that have been terminated from CNN, MSNBC, you name it, ABC, CBS, they end up in the podcasting realm. And if Jimmy Kimmel, he can get out of his contract, but I hate to tell you, Jimmy, that was probably the highest amount of money you're going to be making in a while, and you kept it longer than probably you deserve, and more power to you. You can keep the gig with ratings tanking like they were. But it is interesting to see the left just go apoplectic about Jimmy Kimmel, as if Jimmy Kimmel is some kind of a great standard bearer for free speech and conservatism. You know, he hasn't had one conservative guest on his show all year. The poor guy is really sad that I think he just lives in a bubble, and all the people he's around disagree or agree with him. Everybody he knows, he's never heard an opinion outside of his own, and therefore he can't believe that his opinion is not appreciated in all confines of the world. But again, the reality is Donald Trump did not reach down on high and call Bob Iger and say, get rid of Kimmel. That didn't happen. It was Nexstar and Sinclair that started this snowball effect of actual affiliates, local business owners that own stations that carry the ABC affiliation. They were the ones that stood up in the free market and said, we can't have this happening anymore. We have an obligation to the FCC on this radio broadcast station that we have to fulfill the needs of our community. And if you're running that kind of stuff in Utah, that Jimmy Kimmel was really that Jimmy Kimmel just accused all the Republicans out there of killing Charlie Kirk, it's not serving the community. So these stations start pulling out. So again, watch the media spin. They're talking about free speech and fascism. The real truth is this was the free market at work, and you had local affiliates that said we cannot air this stuff anymore. And National can't put up with that because National has sold that show to so many advertisers. And with the advertisers they were already selling to, they were already losing $40 million a year. So they were losing a lot of money on the show. And it was just about to get worse. And they said temporarily suspended indefinite. But Kimmel evidently wants out of his contract. So more power to him for that. I was Sunday, we're going to go to Sherry Cree here in just a moment. Tomorrow is the Sunday, is the memorial for Charlie Kirk, and make sure you set your DVRs if you're not going to be able to watch it, because I think it's going to be very impactful. I've seen some of the musicians that are going to be there. The speaking lineup is basically the Washington, D.C. is going to be there. It's going to be fascinating. They're expecting crowds to rival, or the impact there to rival like a Super Bowl day. It's going to be crazy day in Phoenix, in the Phoenix area, the Cardinal Stadium. So go ahead and set your DVR for Sunday if you can't watch the Charlie Kirk. I've got a Jimmy Kimmel story on my screen here. If you can't watch the Charlie Kirk's memorial, I'll be recording it as well, and I want to make sure I see every bit of it. All right, can I play some video real quick? This is Charlie Kirk, and I was just streaming some things this morning, and I just find it interesting that he's just every debate he trumps you. He knows how to win a debate. This is him. Some guy walks up and questions his Christian faith. I'm not one to question anyone's faith. Okay, I'm not going to cast any stones at anyone's faith. You work it out between you and. Yeah, that's not my deal. But somebody walked up, and I saw one video this morning in which they tried to attack his credentials. You've dropped out of college. How can you tell us it's a scam? So rather than you're unqualified. So rather than just say, hey, I disagree with you on this point, they said, you're stupid. You're not qualified to be here. I watched that one this morning, and if I have time, I'll play that one for you. But this was another one. They just walked up, rather than saying something specific that they disagreed with him on, they basically accused him kind of being a heretic. And I want to play this video. It's very quick. It's I stole it from the Larry Elder show, but this is Charlie Kirk defending his faith after being basically told you're a heretic and your theology is wrong. I just find it fascinating. Again, they come and they personally attack you rather than real specifics. You're a heretic and you don't know what you're talking about. He always won, but he did it with graciousness. Watch this.
Your brand of Christianity, as a Christian myself, Christian nationalism, I do not agree with at all. I think it's antithetical to the values of the early church. And I think, how do you reconcile especially white Christians in this America, marrying politics and power with their faith in this country?
Well, there's a lot there. I've never described myself as a Christian nationalist. So I'm a Christian and a nationalist, so I've never used those two.
And then right there, that and nationalist, where in the scriptures does a Christian...
Well, thank you. Jeremiah 29:7, demand the welfare of the nation that you are in, because your welfare is tied to your nation's welfare. Let me continue. Daniel fasted and prayed for his nation. Esther and Mordecai cared for their nation. They were counsel to the king.
Right.
Nehemiah, Jeremiah, Joseph, Jacob. I could keep on going. Moses, Aaron. In fact, Moses was so political that he wrote an entire book of the Torah all about how to set up a government. It's the book of Deuteronomy. So, in fact, the Bible is an explicitly political text amongst many other things.
Now, can we interpret those texts in the light of the revelation of Christ? Because you just cited all Old Testament texts, but you have not once cited St. Paul.
Okay, yeah. If you want me to also, by the way, just so we are
St. Paul about the kingdom of heaven and the governance.
Just so we're clear, do you think that the New Testament is greater than the Old Testament?
It is. It is greater because the revelation of Christ dictates how we interpret the Old Testament.
So you think that all of a sudden, like Genesis 1 is not as great just because of the New Testament?
The Old Testament was a type and shadow of the things to come, and now we live in the full revelation of Christ.
Again, that is by definition such a dangerous theological...
That's not true. That's Christological theology.
Hold on. Of course I believe in the resurrection. But to all of a sudden say that, like, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth is, like, somehow lesser because of the revelation of the New Testament. Christ even said, I did not come to abolish the law of the prophets, I came to fulfill the law. In fact, he said all the laws of the prophet hang on the two teachings, Leviticus 19 and Deuteronomy 3-5. However, to use a New Testament example, as you asked, says in 1 Timothy, pray for your leaders in authority by name that they might make righteous, great decisions. I'm going to continue. Christ our Lord said, on this rock build my what?
Church.
Wrong. Ecclesia. It's not the word church.
Okay,
the word
English
church,
translations of Common Bible say church, so my bad.
Well, actually, it shouldn't, because the original Greek term says, on this rock build my government structure. Ecclesia was a secular word used in that time, which was all about the advancement of freedom and liberty, which are the two words in Greek, eleutheria, isonomia, which are the two words there. So the point being, Christ called us to be salt and light. We as Christians should change the environment that we come in contact with. That's what salt and light do. So why should we then not care about changing government to be more Christ-like?
There you go. I just got a rabbit hole this morning watching some of his video. The one who walked up and accused him of not being qualified because he dropped out of junior college. He always handled it with grace, and he obviously knew his stuff. and he will be greatly missed in America. Set your DVRs to watch that memorial on the, if we still call them DVRs, right? Record the show, record the memorial on Sunday if you're going to miss it, because I think it's going to be pretty inspiring. I think it will be. All right, ladies and gentlemen, good to have you here. It's a Friday edition of the program. We'll get back, talk more about Jimmy Kimmel. We're going to talk more about conservative bickering. There's been a lot of stories about Megyn Kelly's being critical of Fox News. And listen, I'll get into all that, because I think some of this is just kind of silliness that's going on out there. There's some people out there saying Fox News is claiming Charlie as their own, but they banned him. Yes, there was a period of time that Charlie was not necessarily on as many shows. But anyway, I'll get into all that, because I just think it's funny how people start reacting even on our side. It's kind of like a family member passes away and everybody starts bickering about the china. Who gets the forks from grandma? People start fighting, and you're seeing some of that happening in conservative media. And stop it, knock it off, don't do that. All right, good to have you. Oh, by the way, we also got to get into, and I got to get to Sherry Cree here. We also got to get into, while a lot of other news has kind of shadowed out, that Kamala Harris has put a book out. And Kamala Harris, if you start reading the book, is airing a lot of dirty laundry, and she's throwing some people under the bus. And she's telling us how much Hunter was involved in the White House. She also says that Tim Walz was not her first choice. She didn't want Tim Walz right up front. She had somebody else she wanted for vice president. So I'll get into all that. That's coming up on the show. Don't go anywhere. But ladies and gentlemen, we're pleased and proud that every Friday now, I'm running already late. I had to start running late so early. Sherry Cree joins us. She's a fantastic realtor, Ascendant Realty, and she's a great sponsor of the show. And she joins us every Friday. We had to switch up the schedule a little bit today for her. For me, it's my fault. But Sherry Cree, good morning.
Good morning, Jimmy. How are you?
I am very well. Thank you very much. Bring us up to speed. The Fed announced a quarter-point cut in the interest rate. What does that mean for the buyer and the seller in the world of real estate?
Right now, the mortgage rate was already, lower in the lower six anticipation for this Fed cut. So this Wednesday cut announcement wasn't well anticipated, and nobody was surprised, and the rates are not moving this week. But we expect, one or two more cuts by the end of the year. Now, if it goes under 5%, like under 6% in the fives, I hear quite a few buyers are flowing into the market.
So the banks and lending agencies had already anticipated this cut. It's already been built in. So if anybody's been going, okay, let me give about 3 days after the cut, next week I'm going to it's probably not going to notice a difference. You might as well just jump in the game. I know we have this particular window right now, and I keep telling our viewers that a lot of people say, well, I don't want to list a house now because I don't want to be dealing with that during holidays if it doesn't move quick. I always tell them they got to call you, because even if they want to put the house on the market after the holidays, they can start strategizing now, come up with a strategy, the pricing, January, February, March. If you're ready to do it then, today's the day to start planning for that. You don't just call and say, put a sign in my yard, Sherry, I'm ready to go tomorrow. They need to call you today.
Yeah, my advice is reach out to your trusted professional early, because even if you're planning to sell your home next spring, this is the time to strategize how you prepare your home to maximize the appeal so that you have a successful sale in the springtime. And also, there are quite a few people that are planning to sell in January, February. And then it is very common to get your photograph of your property and videos is taken while the trees and grass are beautiful. And especially in Colorado, the autumn is a very beautiful time to take property photos.
Oh, that's true. So if you're thinking of January, February, start the process, and Sherry can help you with that. That way you're getting the best views of your backyard with the turning leaves, as opposed to, I've seen it, you take a front photo of a house and both sides of the driveway have piled up snow on it, and that's their selling photo. And I don't want to move there. You've got to shovel snow. You don't want people to be reminded they have to shovel snow at that house. So that's a point I hadn't even considered. We live in Colorado. it's becoming harder and harder for a youngster, a young couple to buy a home. The cost of living is going up. I know you want to talk about home ownership. It used to be the American dream: buy a home early, pay it off. I mean, that was a great investment for the rest of your life. Is home ownership still, I guess, something to be aspired to? Is it still reachable for everybody out there? Because at least in Colorado, it's gotten very expensive.
Right. And Charlie Kirk, often mentioned about home ownership for younger people. Without that attainable, we face challenges. I think the Colorado housing price has gone up so much, but there are a lot of, down payment assistance program or different ways to, I think I mentioned before, but, we call it kitty condo loan, but getting a family member's help and to get the home ownership, possible. So there are a lot of different options and the strategies. And then again, that's very important to discuss that with financing, the mortgage professionals early, so that the roadmap, where you are and where you need to be financially purchase a home, and how you get there. We can all help.
Yeah. So it is something to be aspired to. And that's something I guess there's a couple of things I realized in my childhood I didn't learn. My dad didn't play golf. And so I didn't learn golf. My dad was not, he might have traded a stock here or there, but he didn't really teach me much about the stock market. That just wasn't his world. And also my parents owned a home, but I didn't know anything about lending or anything like that. So when I became an adult, I said, shoot, I can't play golf. I wish my dad would have taught me golf, but he didn't know golf. I wished I would have learned more about the stock market, but he wasn't involved in that. And I had a great childhood. Don't discount that. But I'm just saying, I also, when I became a first-time home buyer, I'm talking to my lender and I'm like, oh, I thought I needed more money down. I mean, in my 20s, I thought I didn't realize there were so many things out there. And I think what you're saying is, no matter how old we are, there's probably some kind of a package or some kind of a product that can help you do that which you think you cannot do. You just don't know about it.
Yes. And then especially for home buyers, especially first-time home buyers, I think it's important to understand the bigger picture of how the transaction, home purchase, work by stages. So I have done a presentation in partnership with credit unions to educate their members about home purchase, 5 stages of home purchasing, which I have a presentation, like start from planning is number 1. And then once you have a vision of what you're trying to do, what timing, what do you have, what you don't have, and then move to the second stage of home search, and then finding the home that fits what your plan is. And then the third stage is negotiating a contract. That's what we do to put a home under contract. And then stage 4 is the due diligence part of the home purchase. Because when you're making an offer, negotiating, putting a contract, I'm not getting in the attics or, going to the crawl space and then finding out there's, issues or not. So stage 4 is the due diligence. The big part is home inspection, which we just had yesterday with one of my clients. But home inspection, but not only home inspection. In Colorado, a real estate purchase contract, there are 5 contingencies built into it. So the title and HOA, home condition, that is the inspection, physical inspection. And then if you're borrowing money, appraisal, and then final underwriting being approved. So all those 5 things are in Colorado standard contract that going under contract is always contingent upon those things, being met and cleared. And then you get to the stage 5, which is the final purchase, the closing.
The voice of Sherry Cree, if you're listening later in the day on the podcast version, you don't see it on the screen. Sherry Cree, you can go to homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com. And as you heard us say, listen, whether you're a first-time buyer, maybe you think that there's products not out there for you that would let you achieve the dream of home ownership, and maybe you think you got to move to out of state to afford a home. Listen, before you do that, if you want to move, but talk to Sherry, and she can help you connect with the people that have those products, the lenders, and she can get you pointed in the right direction. revelation. And again, I think she has a great point that if you're thinking of the springtime or January, February, you're going to list your home maybe after the Super Bowl party. Now's a great time to plan ahead, call Sherry, and think about those homes, the lighting that we have in the fall, the colors of the trees, the grass is still green, and that could be a great time to get some photography and things like that done. So again, think ahead, because home selling to be the best, or home buying, you need to have a strategy that goes beyond what you're going to do tomorrow. It's kind of a long term, and Sherry can help you with that. Sherry, obviously we talk about people wanting to sell maybe in the spring. People can still sell now. There's still a window. People are still buying. But it's fall time, and obviously here in Colorado, we're going to get snow and cold weather. And I know you try to help all of your homeowners and clients know, hey, take care of the house you're in, whether you're going to sell it or you just bought it. Fall maintenance around the house is pretty important.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and then also for the first-time homeowners, that home ownership comes with the responsibilities. So you have to maintain your home. And when you are selling the house, when sellers reach out to me to sell the house, it's a huge difference between homes that's been well maintained and homes that has been neglected. So, full typical maintenance is if you have a sprinkler system in a yard, it's a time to blow out the sprinkler system, typically sometime in October. And then the fall is the time that I highly recommend HVAC contractor to, inspect and then tune up your furnace before the cold weather gets in, full swing.
Yeah. I always, there's another thing that in Colorado where I live, I have some evergreen trees, and it's often overlooked. I need to get those leaf guard things, but those gutters get filled up with the pine needles and stuff. They fill up, and then after the first big snow, you have a melt, and all of a sudden I realizing I've got water not coming down the gutter, but over the soffits of the home, and that can cause some danger. So it's probably a good time to get your gutters checked before you get 2 feet of snow on the roof, and then it starts melting, and suddenly you're ruining the facing of your home.
Yeah, or like detach your outdoor hose from the spigot, because when the cold weather hits, we've all been there. Home maintenance is not exciting as home purchase, because you have a closing and you have big money, but home maintenance really makes a difference of your home value being maintained as your home. So
yeah, and again, get in touch with Sherry. Again, maybe you're trying to do something quickly. She can help you in this fall time. There's still a window. The weather hasn't turned, and of course, I understand the holidays. People have worry about that. But even if you're thinking about that springtime, let's say February, get going. You need to call Sherry today. Get on the list. Have a strategy call. Talk to her. And again, she brings up that great point that now where you still have leaves on the tree outside, it's a great time that she can help the photographers come in and get the great photos that are going to look better than you posting a photo in January of your driveway that's got ruts of snow in it, and snow's on the top of the house. So now would be the time. Plan ahead is what we're saying. That way you're hitting the ground running and not screwing it up when you do it, because it's a strategy game. A new house hits the market and needs to hit with a bang, and you can help people prepare now so they can hit the market in February with a bang.
Yes, absolutely.
HomesWithSherry.com. That's her website. She's usually with us on Friday at 45, but I had to switch some things around, and she was gracious enough to come on early. Go to her website. Check out what she does. Give her a call. Again, you can talk to her. She'll talk to you. She may not like you, and she may not want to work with you, or you may not like her, and you can talk to that, because it's an interview process. And Sherry, that's how you approach it. You want to have a relationship and help people achieve long-term goals with real estate, but you really just want to have that conversation and figure out if it's a match. Am I correct?
Yes, my policy is I will not take clients if I don't feel like I'm the best person to serve your needs. So I can always make a referral.
Yeah. So give her a call. HomesWithSherry.com. The phone number's there. The email's there. The website's there. A lot of good content there. HomesWithSherry.com. Sherry, thanks for hopping on. We'll talk to you next week. HomesWithSherry.com. One of our great sponsors. And again, usually with us later in the program, but today we had to make some adjustments. All right. Good to have all of you here on the program. Don't forget her website, HomesWithSherry.com. Also, don't forget the chat room. I was talking to some friends last night, and they said, do people get to call into your show? I said, no, but they do if they're commenting on the Rumble, the Twitter, the X, or all the many platforms we're on. If they're watching live, they can comment. It shows right up on the screen here when producer chat approves it. And producer chat is obviously approving some that are coming up there. I hope they're quality. I don't have time to stop and read. So if the comments suck, blame producer chat. It's all his fault. I have nothing to do with the comments. Jeff says, don't put up winter pics unless you have a south-facing driveway. See, there's trickeration in this. If you have a north-facing home and you want to sell it in January, February, March, start thinking ahead. Call Sherry, homeswithsherry.com. All right, let's get back to news out there. Of course, Sunday, I've talked about the memorial for Charlie Kirk, and I want to bring Scott Walter in here to the program. We're all been devastated the last week plus with the assassination of Charlie, and the left still doesn't seem to get it. They're still calling people fascists as of yesterday and worried more about Jimmy Kimmel than anything else right now, which is really disgusting and shows the horrible priorities, in my opinion, of the American left. Scott Walter's my guest. He's the author of a book he's been on before called Arabella, the dark money network of leftist billionaires secretly transforming America. And in the book, he exposes Arabella Advisors, which is an organization, a company, as a major dark money operation that channels billions into progressive causes through opaque marketing networks. Scott, I bring you into the program to tie it all together with the assassination of Charlie Kirk, the burning down of cities, the violence of the American left. Somewhere we got to find out where is all this coming from. Who's funding the burning of cities? Are there any ties to these gamers out there, or this network that's in Utah that was training queer armed shooters? There's a lot of nefarious organizations out there, some in the light, some in the shadows. We got to figure this out, Scott.
I agree. It is, obviously intolerable to have political assassinations. But that harkens back, of course, to the 1960s. And there's some interesting parallels and some interesting differences. In the 60s, you certainly had violent leftists willing to hurt people, but you also had big city mayors, including Democrat ones, who didn't tolerate it. Mayor Daley was as true blue a Democrat as you could get in Chicago, but he wasn't about to tolerate violence on the streets. And that's why they went underground. You literally had the most famous radical violent extremists in the 60s was the Weather Underground. And they had to go underground because cops weren't going to let it happen. Now, Antifa in Seattle or Portland, for instance, they don't have that problem. You don't have the mayors of Seattle and Portland clamping down on public violence the way that it used to be.
President Trump announced he's signed an executive order, that he's going to start rooting out the funding of this Antifa. He's declared Antifa a domestic terrorist organization. Give me your thoughts, because I've always wondered who funds these people that show up by the masses. They have signs that are made properly. They evidently have training classes. Somebody's making some money somewhere. Someone's getting paid somewhere. There's screenshots of people, protesters wanted for downtown Seattle or whatever. So there's some type of an organization that is putting all this together, and organizations don't last for long if they don't have some kind of funding. Give me your thoughts about President Trump declaring Antifa a terrorist organization, and where do you think it will all lead back to?
Well, it's terrific that a lot more attention and investigation is going to go into this. But I will say, I'm more optimistic that good things are going to happen in this area than I ever have been, and I've studied this for years. Having said that, we have to have reasonable expectations. These things are complicated. There definitely are groups that have some visibility that and that get money from some significant public sources, like the Soros Open Society foundations. But again, let's go back to the 60s. The Weather Underground was a splinter group from the larger Students for Democratic Society, right? Now, Students for Democratic Society was hard left and foolish, had awful ideas in many ways, but most of those people were not making bombs and trying to blow up the Capitol or police or the police or the rest. So the most violent types are always little splinter groups that are much harder to track and that don't need as much money as the larger groups. So on the one hand, we put out this week, and you can go to capitalresearch.org and get the report. We did a report about how Soros's foundations have put $80 million plus in the last decade into 50 plus groups that let's call them Antifa adjacent, right? They're violent adjacent. They're, maybe publishing manuals on how to block bridges and roads, how to engage the police, how to get fake IDs, which of course is illegal, so you can evade, police accountability if the police do arrest you. So they're doing bad things. They're doing things that violate the laws for nonprofits, but that's not the most radical parts of those groups are going to be loosely organized and not needing a lot of money. Because again, not everybody who goes to those trucks that you see the videos of and gets his pre-printed sign, not every one of those people is then going to engage in violence. Some of them are. So it's a complicated thing, but that's why it's great that we're having these investigations, right? That the federal and state and local law enforcement all ought to be doing investigations so we get as clear a picture as possible.
If you're listening later on the podcast version of the show, by the end of the day, into the weekend, thousands of earballs will have heard or seen this show. Scott Walter's my guest. He's the author of a book called Arabella, the Dark Money Network of Leftist Billionaires Secretly Transforming America. Scott, what's the end game? I mean, obviously, we want to find out who's doing it and why who's doing it and who's funding it. But I was watching some lady one of the cable shows, one of the Fox shows, and she goes underground and undercover in some of these groups. And that surprised she showed her face on television doing this. She does this undercover. Maybe she's done. But she was talking about in America, we've been worried about right versus left, Republicans and Democrats, some kind of civil war. She says what makes her most concerned is that you're going to have these Antifa adjacent anarchy type organizations go to war with the federal government. That's the civil war that she looks out for. Is this the transformation of America that these leftist billionaires are hoping to invoke and provoke?
Well, one of the, again, it's complicated. Some of those billionaires definitely want chaos, right? I mean, Soros doesn't just fund Antifa adjacent groups, some of whose members probably are Antifa. He also funds prosecutors who are not going to prosecute crime and are going to let horrible people out on the streets. It's, the normal American has a hard time with this because we always assume people are they may be misguided, but they must be acting for some good purpose. It's like, well, mostly, but there probably are people who actually want badness to happen, who want chaos. And how, Soros is pushing to decriminalize prostitution all over the world, to have as decriminalized drugs, to have no borders left, to have no actual law enforcement, right? I mean, if you're not, it doesn't matter if cops catch people, if prosecutors turn them loose. It is deeply disturbing that there are people who seek chaos as far as one can make out from what they are objectively doing for years.
I know the name of the book again, Arabella, the Dark Money Network of Leftist Billionaires. I get it. You have a college kid that they think it's kind of cool to do something crazy and protest, fighting for some great cause. And so they may be misguided. They may have been indoctrinated, etc. But I'm thinking of these billionaires. What benefit do they get from creating chaos? It seems like they would want non-chaos in the marketplace so they can. What's the benefit for these puppeteers, if you wish, of creating chaos on the streets of America and around the globe?
Well, as in the concluding chapter of that Arabella book of mine, you kindly mentioned, I can't see into people's minds, but the strongest pattern that you see in these big lefty funding networks and the lefty billionaires and the Arabella network, there's one pattern that's just overwhelming, and that is ever more power centralized in Washington, D.C., and ever less power, authority, freedom, and responsibility for people in their neighborhoods and in their towns, right? And the best I can make sense of that is that it is easier for billionaires to influence Washington, D.C. than it is for them to influence your neighborhood and my neighborhood and everybody else's neighborhood and town. So, you know, it would seem to be a lust for power and influence, and you need to concentrate power to have maximum influence and control over it.
If you ever have wondered how all this chaos happens, who's handing out the signs, who's funding it all, where's it coming, what's the motivation? The name of the book is called Arabella, the Dark Money Network of Leftist Billionaires Secretly Transforming America. Here's what Tucker Carlson said about the book. He says, have you ever heard of Arabella Advisors? Probably not, and that's strange since they've done a lot to destroy the world you and I grew up in. You should know, and so read this book, who Arabella Advisors is. Very quickly, Scott, in our last couple of seconds together, the name of the book is Arabella. Scott Walter, talk about this organization you discovered, this company called Arabella Advisors.
Sure. They run about a half dozen nonprofits, which is where the money goes in, and then they create hundreds of these fake groups with wonderful names like Floridians for a Fair Shake and Keep Iowa Healthy. And they want you to think it's your neighbors upset about something. Actually, it's some guy in a DC office who's created a website and bought some Facebook ads.
The name of the book, Arabella, you'll find out about George Soros, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, and all these mega donors, where are they putting their money at, and what kind of transformation are they trying to navigate and instigate in America. Arabella by Scott Walter, the Dark Money Network of Leftist Billionaires Secretly Transforming America. Scott, I know the book is available Amazon, etc., and you also have a website where you put up some work. You've already mentioned it. Go ahead.
Capitalresearch.org.
Capitalresearch.org. Scott, I appreciate you hopping on the program today. Scott Walter, Arabella is the name of the book. Capitalresearch.org, capitalresearch.org. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I got some things happening today that I had to rearrange our schedule. Obviously, Sherry Cree was early in the program. Doug Giles is usually 15 minutes from now, but right now you're here on time. Guess what? You get to see Doug Giles right now. Doug Giles, good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm just walking around with a Mauser 98 down my pant leg. So typical day.
Typical day, and yet you walked out. You limp one way with it in your pants leg, and yet with the scene of the crime, you run away, and we don't know where the gun's not in the pants anymore. The guy can run. You got any explanation for me, Doug? I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we're being sold a big sack of you know what, man. It's funny when they're talking about the details of Tyler Robinson shooting Charlie Kirk, and they got to the Mauser 98 stuff, Jimmy. I was like, I know a little bit about Mauser 98s. Jimmy, I have 6 of them. 6. Okay. And when they said Mauser 98, I perked up. And they said that here's a video of him walking or schlepping down, some Urim, neighborhood. Yeah. He's got the Mauser 98 down his leg. It's like, that's a big rifle, I don't think you could do it. I don't know if we talked about this or I did it on another show, but yeah, you can't do that. You can't stuff it in a backpack either. The frickin' stock itself is like 30 plus inches long, and the receiver and the barrel is about 32 inches long. And the picture that they have, of the rifle, Jimmy, that's not a Mauser 98. Everything they're so full of crap. We are being gaslit. And, he disassembled the rifle on the roof seconds after he killed one of the most important Americans in our generation. No, he didn't. Man, you are so flipping. Once you shoot a buck, first of all, you have buck fever. So you get anxious before you pull the trigger, or people who are not psychopaths do. And then after, you shoot the animal, woo, the adrenaline is going. So within like nanoseconds, he takes apart a Mauser 98 with a screwdriver, which you don't use screwdrivers to disassemble hunting rifles. You use hex wrenches or Allen key wrenches. You don't use screwdrivers. And then he takes apart the gun, Jimmy, with a screwdriver, and then he stuffs it in his backpacks. And within 2 seconds, he's flying off the roof with a huge rifle stuffed into a tiny backpack. And there's so many holes in this thing that we're being sold. It's a really sad and bewildering day, Mr. Lakey.
It's very strange. If you watch, somebody's posting up, Tucker says, stop inventing conspiracy theories. You can clearly see in his hand when he jumps off the roof is wrapped in a towel. I didn't see that. He used both hands to hang himself off the roof. I didn't see anything. Tucker, if I missed something, show me a zoom in. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, that's a load of crap.
Yeah.
You can take a carbine, like my smallest Mauser 98, to whoever's commenting right now, my smallest Mauser 98 wrapped in a towel. You would recognize that. It is so obvious. The towel's got to be big. Yeah. I mean, people who are commenting, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. And listen, I didn't put the Mauser 98 in play, Jimmy. They did. Yeah. They didn't even have to say that. You know,
the other fascinating thing is they put out in play. He was texting his girlfriend, saying, "I've got to hang out here for a while to go to the drop zone and pick up my gun." Well, why do you have to pick up your gun if you jumped off the roof with your gun? Again, it's just you.
Here's another little inconvenient truth. They said they found the screwdriver, and again, you don't use screwdrivers on Mauser 98s. But they found the screwdriver on top of the roof where he supposedly shot Charlie. And then they tell us he reassembled the rifle in the woods. But I thought the screwdriver is...
I thought that is screwdriver. If you got the screwdriver.
Maybe he had a couple of them, you know. And then, you know, the text exchange. Bro, I'm 62 and I don't talk like that.
Yeah, you know? When they were reading that, I was like, who sounds like that?
It's a soliloquy. Are you well, my love? Yes, my dear. Have the slings and arrows of misfortune come nigh thy dwelling? Nay, I am fine right now, you know? And then he goes, I had to change my outfit. Who the hell? What man
calls an outfit?
This is crap, people. So, but I want to be positive, Jimmy. So, you know, to hell with whatever they're doing to us. Let's really honor Charlie. This is my latest. I haven't put it out there yet. It's not online, but this is the original. And it says, I'm not ashamed of the gospel, for it is the power of God unto salvation to everyone who believes, to the Jew first and also to the Greek. And then at the bottom, boom, be bold.
Be bold.
Still smells like turpentine and acetone. You want to get high with me right now?
Let's do it right now. We can do that together. It's like a Joe Rogan podcast or something. We'll just sniff the terp. I bought one, and we showed it on the photo yesterday, and folks can get a print of the original one, that's the one I purchased, and it should be arriving here the next day or so. And that's the Charlie Kirk that I purchased, and the original's already sold. And you've got scripture on that one. Unpack that scripture.
Yeah, so this Revelation 14:13 says, "Blessed are those who die in the Lord. They will rest from their hard work, and their good deeds will follow them." A powerful scripture, man. And you know, when people are saying, you know, we're going to live like Charlie, that's discipline, that's hard work. Yeah. And you know, and again, I'm glad the sentiment is coursing through the nation. RFK Jr. said yesterday that his niece was planning to go on vacation or a trip or something. She's 17 years old, and she packed her Bible. And he's like, well, what's up with that? And she said, I want to live like Charlie, you know? And I'm glad that sentiment is out there, and I'm not trying to diminish it. But listen, if you're gonna be a mover and shaker, and you're gonna make demons sweat, that comes through serious reading of the scripture, meditation, deep work on your personal soul. And, you know, these things, and again, it's great. And I hope it's not just emotional, but it's dedication to church, dedication to family, and always keeping the state in check. And, you know, the book that I did, Lionhearted, Making Young Christian Males Rowdy Biblical Men. If there's some boys listening, or fathers and grandfathers, and your son or daughter's affected profoundly by Charlie's death, that book is a roadmap to, you know, remove the silliness from young people, and again, make them, you know, a big threat to hell like Charlie was.
The voice of Doug Giles, if you're listening on the podcast later, where thousands of earballs will hear this show by the end of the day, into the weekend, it's douggiles.org. You can go to his website. You can also find a link to douggiles.art, and that's where you can purchase some of these prints that we're showing. And one of those will be in my studio just down the way where I do the Critical Mission podcast, and that's also my cigar palace. I'll be in that. That'll hang up in there as soon as it arrives. Doug, it's just fascinating to watch. I think somebody well-intentioned is saying, "Oh, this is conspiracy stuff." Listen, the media, the government lied to us about JFK for 60 years, and there's just now begrudgingly coming clean that they did not tell us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. We have a lot of these school shooters, and the violence has happened recently, that they're not telling us the truth. They won't say, hey, there was a tie to trans, maybe hormones or whatever. So I think it's very healthy for you to question the narrative, because the government has not really told us any true narratives in a long time. Butler, Pennsylvania is another example. We don't have the full narrative there. We have a couple of talking points they gave, and they move merrily along. The government does not have a good track record.
No, it doesn't. And again, going back to Butler that you just brought up, why did they cremate his body, so soon? No toxicology report, nothing. And then the FBI's up on the roof hosing it down.
Yeah,
I think the day of. And it's just, and again, when people accuse, guys like you and I as conspiracy theorists, when we don't, buy, and eat hook, line, and sinker, whatever narrative they're selling us. I just got to say, Noah was a conspiracy theorist until it rained.
Yeah,
and we should not. To me, it's the whole principle of Occam's razor. It's like I usually have a good BS detector, and again, when they started saying he's walking with a rifle, in his pant leg. And then they scrubbed that video and said, well, this is the real video. It's him with a maroon shirt and green shorts. It's like, I thought he was limping. He ain't limping now. He's got a completely different outfit on.
Yeah.
And it's just, from a comm standpoint, say they're telling us the whole truth, Jimmy. From a communication standpoint, they suck.
Yeah.
Because there's more holes in what they're telling us than a big woman's pantyhose high step in a barbed wire fence.
I'm thinking, this maybe they are, but they don't definitely need some communications help. And that's, they also screwed up the communication story of the Epstein files, etc. So they've had some comm errors for sure. And maybe that's where it's at. Okay. So put all that stuff aside. They're going to tell us what they're going to tell us. The truth is the truth, and where they meet in the middle, I don't know. But there seems to be this, revival, if you will, or reignition. I know my church was packed. I had to park blocks away to get to church on Sunday, and it was like a Christmas Eve service. It was crazy. I heard pastors around America say, wow, things are full here today. I'm guessing there's a tie-in. What do you think is happening spiritually in America?
Yeah, there's a famous refrain that the blood of the martyrs waters the seed of the church. And, we saw it, no kidding. It wasn't a political assassination. It was a martyrdom. Charlie was very forthright, foursquare in his belief in Jesus Christ being the way, the truth, and the life. And his politics were undergirded with this thing called the biblical worldview. And we saw a Cain and Abel, in the 21st century in Utah occur, where somebody, is jealous and envious of the acceptance that God had placed on Charlie and the obvious blessing that he placed on Charlie's life and ministry, and they can't take it. Now, again, I don't think Tyler Robinson's the one who did it. I think he was involved. I don't think he was a trigger puller at all.
Yeah,
I think he was involved. But again, we're seeing persecution, and Jesus said, "If you follow me in this adulterous and perverted generation, they're going to hate you. They hated me, they're going to hate you." Jesus said in John 15:25, they hated me without cause. And so you've got a spiritual forces of darkness, fueled by El Diablo, that do no kidding persecution, assassination, martyrdom of those who are, again, a big threat to Satan and his henchmen. And we got to see that in real time. And what that does is that Satan thinks, aha, this is going to scare Christians. and they're going to start being, mousy, timid, little sheep. And, in the scripture, it had the complete opposite effect. Like when they killed Stephen and when they killed James and when they imprisoned Peter and John, it said that the church exploded and they started preaching the word of God with boldness, and signs and wonders started following after, they did that. And Satan always overplays his hand. In 1 Corinthians 2, Jimmy, it says that if the principalities and powers would have known what would happen to them, they would have never crucified Jesus. So here they're thinking, we got him, we silenced, we struck the shepherd. Now the sheep are going to scatter. Oh no, what's going to happen is that there's going to be a consolidation of worship, evangelism, and then God, doing these miraculous signs and wonders at the hands of just us regular Joes, Jimmy, in the flyover states.
Yeah.
And I think Satan again overplayed his hand. And God's, he's omnipotent, he's omniscient, and he always gets the last laugh. I had this choir teacher back in junior high, and his name was Jeff Barna. And Jeff had a newspaper, and on the front of it says, "Jeff always gets the last laugh." And so when we would act up, this is when we used to get whoopings at school. He would whip us right in front of that newspaper that was mounted behind his desk, where Jeff always gets the last laugh. God always gets the last laugh. And I pray for Erica. What a speech she gave after her husband's death and stuff. I really pray that God just opens up a 64-ounce can of whoop ass on the powers of darkness, and millions of students get born again, and they become fire-breathing evangelists for God and for common sense.
Doug Giles, always a pleasure. Thanks for hopping on a little bit early. I got some stuff I'm going to get done today, and appreciate your flexibility. We'll catch you next week. Go get that Charlie Kirk, and it's under the biblical badass category, all the biblical badasses. DougGiles.art is where you can go directly to that, or just go to DougGiles.org and all things Doug live there. And again, the name of the book you just mentioned that might be a blessing to somebody?
Yeah, Lionhearted, making young Christian males rowdy biblical men.
Doug Giles, take care, my friend. We'll talk to you soon. Doug Giles, and looking for that painting to show up. It's going to be fun, and it's going to. We'll do a live show from in there with that as the backdrop once it arrives here at the Lakey Entertainment Towers. Ladies and gentlemen, we're wrapping it up today for the week. I'll be back Monday morning. Good Lord willing, the creeks don't rise. Hey, would you consider a donation as you wrap up your week today to Rivers Promise? I was talking to my team there yesterday. I was talking to my brother Jonas and my brother Willie yesterday, and we're working heavily to get this school year started off with a bang. Still always have a need for more food, and if you can help us, $30, just a $30 donation will feed one child for 2 meals a day for an entire month. That's still expensive for us, but we can make it happen. Still buying some more uniforms so kids wear them out. $10 for an unsponsored kid provides those kids uniform. We got a lot of unsponsored kids that their sponsors don't have sponsors to take care of this, so we take care of it because they're in our schools. So consider it, pray about it, and if you feel so moved and tingly in your heart to do so, that still small voice in the back of your head says Rivers Promise, and hey, do what you got to do. Riverspromise.org, riverspromise.org. If you want to learn more about the charity, feel free. And there's also a page where you can go and see a little mini documentary that we filmed about 2 years ago. Producer Chad did it, and it's called Rivers Return, and it's my son returning to Rwanda for the first time as a man. He had turned 18. He had been back there with me several times since I adopted him, but if you want to watch that mini documentary, that's up on the website as well. Riverspromise.org, riverspromise.com, and we appreciate your donation. Sherry Cree was on with us earlier. Don't forget homeswithsherry.com. If you miss any part of the program, you can go back in this feed you're watching this in and hit play. It should populate and you should be able to watch it. And also don't forget all the podcast platforms. We'd love to have you out there on the podcast platforms. And what you do is just hit like and subscribe. That helps the algorithms and helps more people find our program. I'm Jimmy Lakey, and I mean this from the bottom of the heart. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see see you Monday morning. Watch that memorial on Sunday. We'll talk about it on Monday. Got lots of stories. Still got to get to Kamala Harris and all the people she's throwing under the bus. Until we meet again Monday, have a great weekend. Facebook.com/Jimmy Lakey fan page. Twitter is just my handle, Jimmy Lakey. Instagram, the whole thing. Just look for my name. I ain't hard to find. May God bless you. May God bless America. I am Jimmy Lakey. Peace. I'm out of here.